0000000. I'm here with Gino.
Hey, Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player. Feeling like Pac. Represent. On my block. Try to knock me down, but I come up on top. Yeah, they wanna see me flop. Got a plot, want a lot. I won't stop on my pops. Got so many flows, it's insane. They don't really understand the game. Got a plan and it's plain, I ain't playing. I'm just trying to gain. I wanna get that big bag, need that big Rex. Blow up Tic Tac with a blue cheese at. I don't give a fuck about your feedback. Eat that, get back, sit back, watch me spit that, kick back. Got so many flows, yeah, they think that I'm insane. Ghetto kids in a lot of pain, all about the bills, ain't shit changed. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game, I'm a player. If you a hater, I don't hate you. I'm just really happy that I ain't you. I just wanna thank you. You kept me motivated, so now I'll motivate you. There's a lot of cake, money on my mind like a banker. Coming through with them bangers, ain't no room for mistakes. Lot of stake, hustle till we get a lot of rooms, lot of stakes. Good kid, but I keep it gangsta. All gas, no brakes. Got cash for the case. More cash in the case. More cash in the safe. More cash on the way. Hustling all day. Ay. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player.
Danger, coming with them bangers. Where my fucking paper.
Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Yeah. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on place. If you only went one way, you late. Yeah. Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late. Yeah. Price go up, I ride the wave. Price fall fast, I short the grade. They need green just to feel okay. I make money in a hurricane. If you bullish only you half a trader. Market turn red, you a spectator. I stay paid in every layer. Volatility my elevator. They panic selling, I'm scaling in. They revenge trade, I'm stacking wins. They chasing candles, I fade the trend. Then cash out calm while they hold the L. You want direction, I want range. You want hope, I want exchange. You want luck, I want edge. That's why my account don't beg. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on place. If you only win one way, you late. Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late. I don't need green candles to eat. If you're scared too short, you scared to win. Profit don't care about direction. Bulls celebrate, bears pay me. Volatility is my direct deposit. Your hope is my liquidity. I don't predict opposition. Fear is where the entries live. You pray for pumps, I prepare for dumps. I make money in corrections and celebrations. The trend is your religion. The range is my income. If the chart move, I get paid. Yeah. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on place. If you only win one way, you late. Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. Bitcoin got the pullback from our local value area high yesterday, and we are currently bouncing off some local support, somewhat strong local support. I am in a scalp long position here from the pretty much the bottom of the dump. We're going to talk about this bounce, guys. Are we going to see the bigger pullback as we continue the battle against $82,000? Well, of course, Market Cipher B is a little bit conflicted here. I'm going to show you guys those signs that I'm looking for. I'll give you the bullish case, the bearish case. I'll let you know which way I'm leaning, which I think all of you guys know. Longer term, we do have those higher targets still open, but as we come into this major level of resistance, obviously looking for pullbacks is not crazy, right? It's not uncommon to see pullbacks from these levels. We'll talk about the key levels underneath us, the big ones that I'm interested in, and then maybe we'll even go over some of the lines in the sand that could indicate we are going much lower. So shout out to the CandleMafia. Welcome in. Let's see. Yo, shout out to Dave Digital. Welcome in, bro. He said, I have the only selfie in the universe with Frankie's calves. Shout out to Dave Digital. Got to meet Dave, guys. Finally, Dave has been around here since the beginning. Finally got a chance to meet him at the Bitcoin conference. Was absolutely awesome. And he even got to meet Mrs. Candles. Very rare thing. Rarer than a picture with the calves, I'll tell you that. But shout out to Dave. Welcome in, bro. Good to see you and awesome meeting you at the conference. We got Felix in the chat. Said, Frankie, did you start making your thumbnails with AI? Shout out to Felix. No, the thumbnail is not AI, but it's actually interesting that you said that because I've been like waiting for AI to get good enough to start making thumbnails, and I literally have been playing around with it for the past couple of days. We haven't used any, but it's interesting that you said that because we have been messing around with it. AI image generation, at least on ChatGPT, has been getting pretty dang good. So stay tuned for the wonky Frankie Candles faces on the thumbnails. But shout out to you, man. Welcome in. We got Mr. Bling in the chat. What is going on, brother? We got Jesse. Darren does things in the chat. Oliver says, pullback gang. Let's go. I am also holding a head short, guys. I'll be totally honest. I'm not going to be surprised if I get stopped out of that. But I'll cover everything. I'll go over the plans, the bullish case, the bearish case. We'll let you know which way we're leaning, and we'll cover what we were looking for yesterday, which is currently playing out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. Dave said NFT, Frankie Candles calf NFT. Somebody actually made us an NFT before. Let's see. I need more Frankie FaceTime. Shout out to Dave Digital. Yes, absolutely, bro. Yeah, we got to find out when the next conference is because we missed last year. That's the first one I've missed in years. We're not going to miss anymore, hopefully. Life does happen, guys. We got the Aztecian Cactus Black Coffee today at 4:40 p.m. So it doesn't look like I'm going to sleep tonight. But here we are, guys. Of course, just a quick recap before we jump into the lower time frames. Of course, Bitcoin still bing-bonging around inside of our resistance here. Obviously, this is our major first intermediary target on the way up to potentially the bigger target between $86,000 to $90,000. That has not changed. It's our macro value area low, 786 Fibonacci retracement. We also have a monthly MPOC up there. We got plenty of confluence up there. This will still be the bigger target to the upside overall, right? Like nothing major is happening just yet to say that we are seeing signs of weakness, but that does not mean that this can turn into a bigger pullback and eventually show signs of weakness for a much bigger drop to the downside. And I might cover the higher time frames with you guys a little bit as well. But obviously, as we continue to chop around and battle $82,000, guys, the question has become, are we finally going to see some kind of a bigger, significant pullback to come in before continuing up to those higher prices? Of course, once we get down there, we'll identify if right now, money flow still in the green here. 2-day money flow still in the green, 3-day money flow still in the green, right? So this is obviously money flow indicates the overall trend, making me, right, giving me my base case on the higher time frames of lackluster pullbacks, higher lows, and eventual higher highs. Now, this is still in the cards. It can change. There's new information on the chart every day, week, minute, month. So, until something changes, that will be my outlook. Obviously, this money flow is curving very nicely to the upside, but we cannot lose sight of the fact that we are obviously in a bear market. Nothing about this pump, right? I've covered this so many times. I don't necessarily think, oh my God, the bottom's in, we're going up to $1 billion right this second. That would be nice. But obviously, it's not lost on me that we are still in a bear market. We still have opportunities to put in lower highs onto our major resistance levels, which we are already tapping into. There's no saying if the rejection is going to happen here or if we are going to have a better chance of having it come in on the 786. But obviously, this whole zone is a big level of resistance. But I will say I am going to be there's a lot more confluence up here. We have massive MPOCs up here. So this is somewhat of a magnetic zone. It's also the value area low of the range, which we all know based off of auction market theory is always, wrong range. Is always going to be kind of that magnetic target, right? It doesn't mean you're always 100% going to get up there. But of course, right, we leave the range down into our previous value. We've now broken out of that range very nicely. And, we could always have that higher target up here towards that value area low on top of all the confluence that we have. So not really a big update there, right? Just still chopping around that first intermediary target. And really yesterday what we were looking at was the fact that obviously we have put in a high, a low, a lower high. Are we going to see this lower low come in? That's kind of what I want to talk about, right? Now, on Market Cypher B, guys, when I look at this at face value, now we have to be careful here because pretty much throughout this entire uptrend, every money flow crossover, even on like the 3-hour, right, has all been kind of swallowed up for still higher lows and higher highs. We did not really get a big continuation of the downtrend. It's kind of weird. We're in a bear market, but we're locally in a bullish environment. So things are a little bit weird here, but we are, of course, just trading those key levels, which I guess I'll cover this before I continue. Obviously, we looked at these key levels yesterday, which of course was just a simple volume profile. We had our resistance getting tapped here at the value area high, where locally we were looking for a rejection back into the value area high, making the next target very likely the POC. Lose the POC. We are looking to go down to that value area low where we had a key level of support and a long setup in the premium Discord. I am holding that scalp long. I have already taken some profits on that, still up about almost $1,000. This is my short from much higher. Profits are locked in on that. I haven't shown this trade in a while. That's still up 6,500. But yeah, in that nice little scalp long, profits locked in, up 926 unrealized. Very nice, right? Like literally a beautiful reaction off that key level. We just look for that fulfill the volume profile. If you guys are new here, the volume profiles give you that magnetic rotation through the entire range. This is where I like to look for longs. This is where I like to look for shorts. We got the beautiful drop. And now we are seeing a very nice bounce back to the upside. And I'll go deeper into these local levels in just a second. But at the end of the day, that's what we were looking for yesterday. We finally got that drop, getting the bounce. But overall here, guys, when we take a look at the higher time frames, right, we've talked about how obviously we've come into the major target. We've seen money flow fake out a whole lot here on the way to the upside. I've sat out of most of the shorts on the way up, preserving my profits from my long. And then this is kind of the first area where I was, somewhat interested in actually taking the short. This is a magnetic level, right? There's no real reason for me to be like giga shorting here, giga shorting here, giga shorting here. We want to see that full zone pushed into, and we now have a high, a low, and a potential lower high. Now, when we look at our money flow here on Market Cypher B, I have to take this at face value, right? Money flow is coming out on the 4-hour time frame. We also had our daily red dot looking to print yesterday, which is currently printing now. And on top of that, we had the 80 and the 90-minute money flow coming out, right? So when you have that daily red dot with the 80 and 90-minute money flow crossing out, this is typically what we call a market cipher B 116th bearish setup. And, at that point, right, we are looking for any kind of bounce to the upside to be somewhat lackluster, right, for lower highs and lower lows. The problem here, right, this is the 4-hour time, or I'm sorry, the 80-minute money flow, 4-hour also coming out here. It just becomes very difficult, guys, because this could very easily turn into something like this where you have money flow coming out, you just still stick the higher low and continue up. But at face value, money flow is coming out. I do still think this is, our first, at least our first major level of resistance. I think the chances of a pullback coming from here are much higher than like any of these other local levels on the way up to this magnetic zone. So you do have that, right? If you're in a short, right, I would say this idea, like I explained yesterday, is still valid. You come up, you hit the resistance, potential lower high, right? This is open with money flow coming out for a lower low. This long is looked at as a scalp, all right? Like I said, I already had profits locked in until proven otherwise. But I am also, did I say I was also holding I'm holding a scalp short position as well, but I do expect to get, I'm not going to be shocked if I get stopped out of that. But either way, the idea of getting the bigger rejection from this level, right? When you got the lower high, you're still below your golden pocket, right? We could see that bigger pullback, which you guys know we have some major key levels below that I'm going to be looking at that I would be much more interested in along, right? We covered 3 levels yesterday. One of them was down this level here at $80,000. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these levels. We covered this last night. We didn't cover the exact setup. I do that in the premium Discord, but we do have that key level there on our scalp levels. But I'm going to be viewing that as a scalp, right? If we do get the bigger pullback, right, the bigger areas that I was interested in, right, number one for the scalp was the $80,000 zone. And then underneath that, the real next big level is going to be about $77,000. We took a look at the liquidation heat maps. Just to give you a little idea on the scalp position, we did come down and take some of that liquidity. We got little SFPs. That was kind of the basis of that scalp long. But when we take a look at the higher time frames on those liquidation heat maps, there were a few different zones that I was looking at, right? We had the $80,000 liquidity, and then we have the $77,000 to about $76,000 zone. And then underneath that, right, I'm really looking down for a move towards, closer to 74 to 73K, right? These are the big chunks of liquidity. We also do have one here at about 79.3 down to 78,650. But really the bigger zones I'm looking at are 77 to 76 and then about 74 to $73,000. And I'll show you why that makes sense on the chart for me. But we'll see what happens here, right? You got the daily red dot, right? Technically, if you want to get like super nitty gritty here, you do technically have a daily bearish divergence locally into the level, right? You guys know I like to see those divs locally into the level. And we do have that, it is pretty small divergence, but it is there. Red dot printing, 80 and 90-minute money flow coming out. So that's what I'll be looking at for the continuation if we're going to get a bigger dump to the downside. Once that money flow crosses into the red on the 80 and 90-minute, we have about 3 hours left for that to cross over while the red dot, 3 hours left for that to print while the red dot is still here. That's what I'm going to be looking for because, again, right, if you have money flow coming out, red dot on the daily is a pretty high time frame. That could give you a little significant pullback. And then that 80-minute money flow, 90-minute money flow is giving you the idea of just continued lower highs and lower lows, right? Hopefully targeting around $77,000, and I'll bring up those exact levels in a second. So we'll see what happens here, guys, right? Like the only thing that I'm a little bit wish-washy on right now is the fact that, a lot of the things that I look at when it comes to Market Cipher B, aka the money flow coming out, Market Cipher B 116 strategy setups, they have been stepped on this entire move up. But as I've mentioned, it is a little bit of a different scenario because we finally came into resistance, right? So my little scalp short is so low risk that it's like if we get the dump, I at least have a head short, and then who knows, right? If it winds up turning into a bigger dump, I'm short from the top, essentially, right? And if I stop out, it's like I really don't care. It's so low risk that it's like I'd rather just like take that very, very tiny risk to expose myself a little bit. If I stop out, it's totally fine. I still hold my long from $66,000, and now I'm holding this new scalp long position, which will continue to pay me out. So we'll see, right? Will the money flow fake out again? That's kind of the big thing that I am looking at, right? Like, is this just gonna fake everybody out and just get another push to the highs. It's really hard for me to be super confident in that not happening, right? Just because we've seen it happen so much recently. But again, hitting that key level does kind of put a little bit more validity behind the money flow coming out at this point. And on top of that, another thing we've been looking at are those higher time frame VWAPs cooling off here on time frames like the 2-day, which is now printing a red dot, and the 3-day, which is also printing a red dot, right? So it makes sense to me to potentially see some kind of pullback here. And then again, on a higher time frame, when we have a red dot with money flow coming up, we look at that as on a higher time frame as an ebb or flow to the downside for a higher low and a higher high. Now, the big levels, of course, are same levels we looked at in the past, are going to be we're going to use this volume profile as our guide on the way down, but really the areas of confluence that I'm interested in is obviously we did have confluence here on the, let me just pull these levels up real quick. Daily MPOCs, weekly MPOCs, right? So up here at 80K, this was what we were interested in for the scalp. You had a weekly MPOC, a daily level, previous value area high, on top of your local value area low, right? You had the anchored VWAP coming up. You had a lot of confluence here for that bounce. But if we break below this, right, of course, let me clean this up so it's not super confusing. I want to try to keep this like nice and clean. So let me actually, give me a second to clean this up because these are obviously already tapped. I'm going to keep them on the chart just for some context here. Daily MPOC still not tapped just yet. I'm going to hide this daily. The reason I'm going to hide this daily, guys, is because there's not a ton of confluence here. It's kind of just sitting by itself, right? What I'm going to point out to you right now are the areas of big confluence, right? This daily's kind of by itself. Not that it's not a key level, but it's just doesn't have a ton of confluence. I'm going to take it off for now. So at the end of the day, if we are going to see that 80 and 90-minute money flow come out, and we are going to continue the downtrend, get stuck underneath this value area high, the next likely place for price to go is the POC. This sits at about $77,600. It is confluent with the golden pocket, right? This golden pocket is pulled from this low or this higher low into the absolute high. You got two levels there, right? Is it the strongest level? It's two levels of confluence. Obviously, down here inside of our blue box, you have a lot more confluence, right? And the other thing is these daily and weekly MPOCs that we have sitting here. Of course, this wick did take out those levels. The reason I still have these on the chart is because this did not pop up on every exchange. So I still somewhat see that as a valid level. But for the sake of the argument here, I'm going to take these off, right? Let's pretend that we're looking at a different exchange. We don't have those levels. The real next area of confluence, of course, like a big basis of this support is the golden pocket 786. But really, between the golden pocket and the 786, I would have to say my bigger area of interest is going to be that 786 because it's much closer to a tight cluster of confluence. Now, does it mean you can't bounce off the golden pocket? Not necessarily, but when I try to find these levels where I want to take a trade, I want to see that, like just like up here, right? I want to see that tight cluster of confluence. So at the end of the day, right, get stuck in here. Next likely place to go is the POC. I have my alert set here because, again, this is a gigantic zone of support, especially once you bring those MPOCs back in that I just deleted. It makes it really hard, right? Because, like, I don't necessarily want to take a trade here with, like, a 3% stop loss. I would rather get, like, a nice tight entry, hopefully, on this area of confluence with a nice, a bit of a tighter stop loss. But when we look at the support, it really is sitting between about 77.8 and 75 700. But this doesn't really help us when we're trying to find an entry because it's such a large zone. So I am going to put a lot more emphasis here on the tighter area of confluence, which is sitting between $76,500 and $75,694. We have a daily MPOC, a weekly MPOC, a daily horizontal, and hopefully this anchored VWAP can make its way up here, and if that becomes confluent as well, hey, that's going to give us an additional area of confluence. So this, I could still call it like the $77,000 zone, and we have the liquidity that I just brought up on the liquidation heat map, right? Where's it at? About 77.5 all the way down to about 76, almost 76.7. So you have the liquidity confluence there as well. So if we get stuck back under the value area high, I'll look for the move to the POC. My alert will go off. I will look at price action here. If this happens, tomorrow during the day, I'll be looking at the price action live with the Discord. We'll see maybe if we get an early setup and we don't look like we're going to go down here, maybe we'll take the trade. Hard for me to say right now because I don't know what price is going to look like. And with our money flow coming out here, right? If we continue the downtrend and this 4-hour money flow is continuing out, that's going to look a little bit more bearish for a lower high and a lower low, right? Which makes that level a lot more likely to get hit. But that is going to be key zone number 1, right? And of course, we have this beautiful volume profile to give us the roadmap for where price will likely go next. Let's say we get in here, PLC is next, we lose the PLC, we come in here. That's my first big area of interest. And then if this fails and we cannot hold on top of that 786, really what I'd like to see there is a push, tap into those key levels, reclaim the 786, and then that would give us an opportunity to get the bounce. If this 786 fails, very simply, right, this would be in the idea of a low, a higher low, and a higher high. If we end up getting that, right, or if we do not end up getting that, and we wind up getting stuck underneath the 786, or maybe we bounce to the PLC, we can get back under this. At that point, right, we're looking for the fulfill the volume profile, which brings us to our next key level, which sits right down here between 74,181 and $73,000, right? This is still going to be the biggest level on the chart, in my opinion. Why is that? Well, very simply put, it is because it is the value area high of our previous range. If we get that big old pullback and we do not bounce here and we get accepted into this range, I am very likely going to be looking down towards $68,000, right? Lose the value area high. Next place for price to likely go is that POC. If we get down there, this is going to be the last place, in my opinion, that we can get a bounce, right? Where is my macro trend support? Right, this 786, this POC at about 68K. This 73K, like this is really, like in my opinion, I'm probably, once we get accepted into that profile, expecting a bigger breakdown. But when we look at this, you got 2 daily MPOCs. You also have your golden pocket pulled from the low to the high, coming in confluence there. You have a weekly MPOC, and I believe that is a daily horizontal sitting down there. So you have a bunch of confluence there. Technically, this can still put in a higher low. I just won't feel very good about that. I hope that we don't have to do this. Chances are, once we get down here, I am probably going to be looking at a higher probability of a bigger breakdown towards the bottom of the range. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? It's pretty far away. But you can see very clearly here, the next cluster of confluence, if we're going to get some kind of a significant pullback, is going to be that $77,000 to $76,000 zone, right? This would be very nice, in my opinion, right, for a continuation of the uptrend. Once we lose that, of course, we're looking down towards 73. All right, down towards that value area high. And really the thought process here, guys, is, let me take this off the chart real quick just to clean it up. Right, I really don't want to get accepted back below this value area high, right? We've got a nice breakout of the volume profile. We are building value higher. We do not want to get stuck back in here. This is just generally going to make me a little bit more bearish, right? And just with the volume profile, I'll be expecting that POC, right? And at that point, I would have to assume that not only is the 4-hour money flow obviously going to be in the red, but we'll probably have our daily money flow coming out as well. You got some daily bearish divergences up here. The context down there is probably going to be much more bearish. Maybe I'll look for scalp longs, but at that point, right, you're long in the POC, you're stuck inside the range, right? Are you going to fill it in full? And then, once we lose this, right, looking down for that break of 60K. So the bearish case is that all this money flow is going to be correct. Give us a breakdown here, lose $73,000. This is the biggest key level. I've said this every single day. This is the biggest key level. Why? Value area high of the previous value, right? Or current value, technically. Once you get accepted in there, it's like you're no longer breaking out of this value, right? You're getting accepted into lower value and very probable to get that full value rotation. Just like we saw, it's the same exact thought process as when we look at the scalp levels, right? Right here, if you're getting an impulse out of the range, right? Well, let's just pretend this was like a bigger impulse, right? And you come back down here, you're hoping to stay out of this value. You don't want to come back in here. You want to leave the value and go seek out previous higher value. Once you get accepted back in there, what is likely to happen? Whether it's an impulse or just a deviation. All right, this is the bread and butter of my strategy. You deviate above the high, that's where we want to look for shorts, get stuck in the range, POC, value area low. We like to look for longs at the value area low, flip the POC, value area high. And I'll get a little bit more in-depth here on these local levels, but it's the same exact theory, right? Just like if we were approaching from underneath, let's say we got a big dump and we were approaching from underneath, you want to get inside the value and fill it in full. You do not want to reject it. So that's the thought process on that $73,000 level. And there's some other nitty-gritty stuff we can look down there. I'll cross the bridge when we get there, if we get there. But right now, 73K is kind of the biggest level that I want to see tapped. Hopefully, we could just hold 77K. That would be nice, right? But it's level to level. We just have our key level set. Alerts go off. If we see a trade to take, we shall take the trade like we did today. If we don't see the confirmations or I don't see a good reaction, I will sit out of the trade, and very often it will continue in the opposite direction. So yeah, I'm just holding my my long. I'm also holding my scalp short. And I'll probably stop out if you ask me, because when we look at some of these lower time frames, yeah, you get to see, man, money flow is just a bit choppy in this environment. But check the 10-minute, right? So we have the 10-minute money flow looking to cross over into the green. 7-minute money flow attempting to pop into the green, right? In the green, in the red, back in the green. But the reason I'm looking at this 7-minute was because we got the crossover into the green with our 2-hour green dot, which is now confirmed. It was printing at the time, so that did give us a locally local market cipher B bullish continuation setup. But right now I have profits locked in at this point, right? If we wind up dumping, I will get stopped out in profit on the long, and then my short will continue to play out, which will be nice, as long as I don't get stopped out before that. But right now, locally, right, this is your key level of support. If we can flip on top of that POC, the next target is very simply going to be the value area high. Now, this value area high does have some confluence with the golden pocket 786 of this entire move down. So, obviously, we have been chopping around up here. This is the line in the sand right now, right? We break above that 786. I think there's a better chance that we continue up. But if we do get the bigger push to the upside locally, this would be the level if you're looking for a bigger dump. This is kind of the level you want to stay underneath, eventually fill the range again, and then lose that range towards $77,000, right? Which is obviously a little bit lower. But right now, I'm just trading this locally as a range. We'll see if this winds up playing out to the value area high. TP1 was the POC. I actually have this set up drawn on the chart already. Obviously, we're never going to get this to play out absolutely perfect timing-wise, but you can see here we drew this in the Discord when we were sitting up here, right? Seeing if we can get the pullback to the value area low for the long position, TP1 at the POC, another TP here at the value area high. At that point, right, you just let the rest of the trade run. If it decides to break out, you're holding a portion of that trade from the low. And then even if you just get the TP1 and stop out, you can still get stopped out in profit. And Bitcoin is just following that drawing almost to a T, right? It's the exact line that's on that picture. Obviously happened a bit quicker, but very nice to see, right? Just that's the crystal ball right there. But at the end of the day, right, we do have things pointing against the bigger breakout, which is the money flow coming out. So right now I'm hedged. We'll see. If I have to, again, the loss here is going to be so dang small that I might even be a little bit more interested in, maybe taking another stab at a short up here at this point. But it's, I wish we had like everything pointing in the same direction. But the reality of the matter here is that we do have a lot of mixed signals. And to kind of delete a lot of that noise, I just like to come up to the higher time frames, which is obviously we're at major resistance, right? And when we pull this up, right, part of the reason I did take that head short was the fact that we were coming up to retest this value area low. This is a big level, right? Because this is the POC of the local range, right? So even locally, when you're looking for the continuation to the upside, you want to get above the POC in order to open the door to the value area high. But at the same time, if you flip that POC, you're also getting inside this value area low, which, of course, flipping the POC brings you up to the value area high. But now that you're inside the value area low, technically, the bigger point of control at about $84,000 is open, right? So we're kind of in a situation. I know a lot of people hate this kind of predicament. People just want to hear, is it going up or is it going down? But a lot of times, the truth is, it's a very foggy kind of situation. So how do you kind of deal with that? You just have to make a plan, right? And then stick to the plan. More often than not, my plans are right. Sometimes they're wrong, right? And that's where the risk management comes in. Already made money for the day. So, again, if I stop out of there, I mean, this would be, honestly, if I'm going to stop out of this long position, I hope it happens from here because then I'll have that head short. Long at the bottom, short at the top. But again, right, like looking at this low time frame money flow, we'll see if you can get that local continuation up. So, I wish we just had like a picture-perfect scenario right now, but it is just a bit difficult. It's a little cleaner on the higher time frames, like I said, but overall, if we get the bigger pullback, biggest level I'll be kind of waiting for is going to be that $77,000 level. Hopefully, we can get the big bounce from there. If not, $73K. Once we get down there, we're going to have a talk, Mafia. We're going to have a talk if this trend is starting to come to an end, right? Getting accepted into lower value is never really a bullish sign, right? It's more likely that you will fill that value in full. But luckily, right, like I've talked about yesterday, we have plenty of room to come down here and still sustain the bigger trend, right? And this anchored VWAP would be absolutely beautiful to hold on top of. So there you go, right? And that is coming very close in confluence with that 77 to 76K zone. Let me jump into the chat here real quick. Shout out to Oliver, said, okay, but when alt season? Shout out to you, brother. And I do want to cover kind of the higher time frames because I do know, obviously, this is a trading channel. It took me a while after having this channel to kind of be like, from a trading perspective, we look at these local levels and, it's like, oh my God, we got the beautiful bounce. We're making money, baby. It's the beauty of being a trader. And then people are just like, I'm bored. And I'm like, but we're bouncing. And they're like, yeah, but like that bounce is what, 1%? Like, so I know these levels are exciting for people who are traders, but I know there are a lot of people here just for like the higher time frame TA. My overall outlook on the cycles, right? Where do I think we are in the cycle? How low can we go, etc. And this is obviously very important for people who are looking to get in long term. And so I do want to cover that a little bit. I'm going to come into chat for a second, but I will cover this a little bit because obviously we do have some interesting things here, guys. Like, if the bottom is in, or even if we see kind of what I would prefer would be to take out the lows eventually, to put in some high time frame confirmations and then get the bigger move up out of the bear market. Like, even if we do see that, it would still, there's some things that are just a lot different about this bear market than there was in the previous ones, right? And I know it's like this time is different, right? But this is not just me having hopium, right? It's not me just being like, I want price to go up, so this time is different. We have to go to all-time highs. As a matter of fact, obviously, I don't think, right, this is probably a very low probability scenario for something like this. More likely, right, what we've seen in the past is more of like a long-term accumulation zone, right? Maybe you take the lows, you bing-bong around, and then eventually you see that bigger move up. But from a timing perspective, it's not lining up with the previous cycles. From a percentage drawdown perspective, it's only 52%, which would be the most dramatically less severe bear market than that'd be the easiest, guys. If I am not saying the bottom is in, but if the bottom were in here, or even if we went down to like 50K, that would be like the easiest bear market ever, right? Like, we're obviously in crypto used to much bigger drawdowns. Last cycle was about 76%, 77%. So like, a 50% pullback is like really nothing to scoff at. I mean, it's basically a deeper, bull market correction, right? So obviously some of that stuff does not line up. So I'll try to give you my best thoughts on that and my overall perspective. But let's see. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. He says, the GOAT is here. The crowd feels wise while 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour divs arise. 16-hour, 21-hour join the play, and the daily bearish div whispers fade the day. Hey. Shout out to Zach. There's the daily bull. I mean, you can actually look at this two ways, right? Technically, just barely, right? Like, you just generally have higher highs, very slightly lower highs on your momentum waves, but even locally here, right, you got the higher high in your price action, lower highs on your momentum waves. So, yeah, the daily div is there. The 10-hour div is also technically there, to your bodies at least, not to your wicks, but I actually prefer to see them to the bodies, if I'm being honest. There's the higher high. There's the lower high. Red dot already confirmed there on the 10-hour. 12-hour does not have the div, at least on this exchange. That is a lower high. 16-hour does indeed have the div, right? So we are seeing signs here, guys. Like, at face value, into resistance, right? Higher highs, lower highs, bearish divergence. Higher highs, lower highs, bearish divergence. Daily, higher highs, lower highs, bearish divergence, right? So you got the bearish divergences into the key levels, right? And I got scammed, as I mentioned yesterday, due to my own stupidity. I was trying to ladder into a position here, took the trade, right? And then was looking to add on the retracement, and I was just on too high of leverage. I didn't even realize. I didn't double check it. I didn't look at it. I just kind of like fumbled the execution, and I wound up getting liquidated on that trade. It was only a partial position, so it wasn't like I got wrecked. But if that were not to be the case, I would be short from up here. And I would still be holding that trade with the possibility of it playing out. So definitely valid there, right? You're into key resistance. You got the bearish confirmations. I mean, if that trade doesn't play out, this is a trade that we had given in the premium Discord. If that trade does not play out, like I would still look at that as a good trade, right? So shout out to Zach, right? I think you were actually, Zach's in the premium. I think he was able to catch the top there. I was sleeping at this point. But if I were you, Zach, right? Now this is not financial advice. If I were you, I'd be holding that short. And if it doesn't play out and you stop out, bro, I would take that as long as you're managing the risk correctly. You're not going to like blow up your account or anything. I would take that as a valid loss, right? I always tell people to measure their losses by the setup, right? Not the fact of like, was this a bad trade if it stops out? Not really, in my opinion, right? Sure, you're fading a lot of strength, which could make it a little sketchy, but from a technical perspective, I see bearish divergences into a key level of resistance. If that stops out, that's like a trade that I'm going to take almost every time anyway. So we'll see if it plays out. Hopefully for Zach's case, it does, and hopefully for my case, it does too, because now I am holding a short. Yeah, shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, bro, and thank you for the haiku. Everybody clap. Everybody clap. But yeah, anyway, shout out to Zach. Danny G says, hey, Frankie, are we still making our way up to that VP in the low 90s? Yeah, shout out to Danny G, like the longer-term target, right? Although I just talked about the potential short opportunities here. Obviously, when it comes to the higher time frame money flow, 2-day, 3-day. What's the 4-day looking like now? This 4-day's kind of just been wonky, right? 4-day looks a little bit sus in my opinion. But, you know, looking at the 3-day, right, you can keep the idea, right? And it's not just like making a one-to-one bet where it's like, when we come down here, I have to take the long, and if it gets wrecked, it gets wrecked. It's not the case at all, right? By the time we get down here, maybe this money flow's faking out. But at face value, money flow's coming up on the 3-day. So red dots here would have to make me anticipate lackluster pullbacks, which on a 3-day can be pretty significant. And like I said, we can come down pretty deep, and we still have a lot of places where we can get the bounce, right? So if it's not going to be, I think it has an opportunity. If we do get the bigger pullback, we get accepted below 73K, it could have the opportunity to be like the big high. But with money flow here, the base case, in my opinion, as of right now, is going to be to look for still a pretty significant move, plenty of money to be made, before a higher low and a higher high. Money flow indicates the trend, right? The red and green dots indicate the ebbs and flows. The ebbs and flows. Money flow indicates the entire trend. So looking at this, right, it looks good to me to start looking for higher lows on the way down. If we get down there and it looks like trash, right, we'll say, well, hey, guys, money flow is now faking out. I'm no longer interested in that level. We just have to let time pass and information come in. But if that is the case, right, if this all goes according to the money flow, right, higher low, higher high, the next target will 100% be 86 to 90K. This target is still absolutely valid, absolutely open at this moment in time until something changes, right? So shout out to you, brother. Absolutely. Shout out to Bitfrog, said, I had a short on BTC at 81.9, but I chickened out before the breakdown. Shout out to Bitfrog. Did you close it in profit is the question. Shout out to you, bro. It happens. It happens. I mean, trading is like the biggest psychological and emotional test on earth, right? Especially when there's money on the line. Shout out to Zach, said stop loss set to break even now, 82K, my new entry point after all the ladder up. Let's see. Shout out to Zach. Nice management there, bro. Absolutely beautiful. Shout out to V-Troll, says, since the bear divs are clear, what stops you from entering the trade a bit later? Shout out to V-Troll. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. I think you totally could enter a short later. I think entering a short is very difficult, right? Like I said, this is super low risk. You know, at the end of the day, can't get back inside the value area high, or hey, maybe we even reject the golden pocket 786 value area high, and then you get the bigger breakdown. It's difficult, right? Like we are in a difficult situation. So you could totally like wait for another setup, right? Like, you know, wait for some more local context, take a scalp that could turn into a swing potentially. There's nothing wrong. Like you don't always have to short like right at the top of the range, right? So you absolutely can look for a short lower. But I mean, honestly, on bull div or bear divs, right? Like my ideal situation is to find local confirmations on a lower time frame up here, and then let those higher time frame divs print afterwards so I can have an entry from the top. Obviously not my current situation right now, but I always kind of prefer to try to snipe the top of the move. But there's nothing wrong, right? Like you could wait for like whatever, a break of structure, a retest, right? Like there's going to be a ton of places where you can potentially look for a short. This is just according to my plan. Good Lord. Shout out to Chris. Is Chris exempt? Y'all are pushing those through. Funny AF. Shout out to Dave Digital. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we can hide the chats if they're super, super aggressive, but don't ban them. Don't ban them. We love Chris. It's kind of his character here in the Candle Mafia is just sending out-of-pocket comments. But shout out to Chris. I'll read this one. Tony's only scary if you're looking at his face. I never see him. He's always behind me in Pound Town. All right. Anyway, shout out to Dave. It makes sense to have a smaller bear market as the bull market wasn't as powerful this time around. Yeah, I mean, another reason why, in my opinion, right, we could potentially be in store for a shorter bear market or a less severe bear market is just through the base of diminished returns and diminished losses, right? As the asset matures, it just gets, I guess you could say, less volatile, right? If you watch the channel from day one, right, I've talked about this forever. It's just like the nature of a market, right? Like first big move up, 54,000%. Second move up, 10,000%. Third move up, 1,800%, right? Like this move up, obviously much more diminished returns. And I think we'll eventually get to a place with Bitcoin where we kind of do start to just break those typical 4-year explosion cycles, right? And it just kind of turns into more of a slower kind of grind, melt up kind of scenario. But yeah, I mean, you would totally, and just like I measured those pushes up, the pushes down get less severe and less severe. The only thing here is, I mean, to be fair, first cycle, I'm going to rough these out, guys. 87%, 84%, 77. This one was about 77%, and then this one's like 52%. That's a pretty dramatic diminished loss. But the market is different, right? Like we have institutional interest. It's a different animal at this point. So it doesn't mean that the bottom's necessarily in. I think everybody kind of knows where I come from on this. If the bottom is not in, I do think like one more dump to the downside to take out the lows. Lowest I'll be looking at until something changes is about $47,000. Maybe we get a longer term accumulation and then eventually we see the move up. I kind of covered those two major scenarios yesterday with the bar patterns, right? Like more bullish case where you're bouncing off of the right POC value area high of the previous range, right? And then the more bearish scenario would be obviously to see the traditional 4-year cycle play out, right? High comes in, whether it's where we are now or we have to push up into like the 80s to 90s, and then just see the traditional 70-something% correction to the downside. This would bring us to 30K, about a 75% correction. And then, it comes in around October. This would be like the more traditional bearish case, right? Like both of these, I'm personally not looking at this as a base case. My base case is more something like this. Of course, guys, this is not going to probably not going to play out exactly like this, but it's something more this flavor rather than this flavor. Once we start losing the value area high in the POC here, this is where the probability becomes more likely to see something like this. But until we see that, there's really no reason for me to look for that, right? And the big reason for that is I'm going to do it. In this condition, right, unless we get some kind of crazy black swan, global recession, this can obviously change things. But on the weekly time frame, right, like anytime we've seen those oversold conditions, right, we are much closer to a bottom than we are to just like starting a massive capitulation down. So it's difficult, right? But the way I handle it, right, you just have to have your plan. I am partially exposed to the market right now. If we get another dump down, I will continue to weighted dollar cost average. If we go to 30K, like I said, I will sell my plasma for extra cash to buy Bitcoin. Long term, obviously, my long-term thought process on Bitcoin is it is going to continue to go up and to the right. Obviously, I think most people have that same view. So there you go. Chris is wild. Yeah, Chris is out of pocket today. I missed the other ones, though. People are cracking up, though. Shout out to Chris. Maybe they banned them. But let's see here. Percentage-wise, it is smaller, of course, even if the market cap grows by a small amount of dollars year by year. Only junkies sell plasma. Can I sell my kidney? I'm definitely not a junkie. I don't know. Maybe I am a Bitcoin junkie. That could be possible. Big dump when Trump signs the Clarity Act and then a slow grind up. That's not a bad thesis there. Of course, I don't really pay too much attention to the narratives, right? I'm just a big chart guy, right? But yeah, definitely. I mean, I would definitely not assume, right? Like it's back to the ETF approvals. Like ETFs approved, dump. Do we continue up? Absolutely. Is it bullish long term? Absolutely. I guess depending on your kind of longer term plan. You know, if I were looking for a leverage long, I would probably be looking to short the top of a bullish news announcement, right? But that doesn't mean it's not going to be bullish long term, obviously. So from that perspective, that definitely makes sense. Sell the Supra. Shout out to Mr. Bling. I'll sell that Supra. And then I'll buy 10 more after Bitcoin pumps. Sell the kidney, Frankie. I'll tell you what I would never sell is Lucy. Mrs. Candles, maybe. Hopefully she's not in here. I'm just kidding, babe. I'm just kidding. But anyway, that's what we're looking for. Zach says they tried to break it for 4 hours nonstop and failed. Yeah. I mean, obviously 82K. The thumbnail, battle at 82K, right? And of course, this is the level that we have been looking at since $66,000, right? I don't want anyone, if you haven't been tuned into the live streams, I don't want people thinking that, like, we got up here and now I'm bullish, right? Like, we were bullish from down here. And this is really major target number one, tapped, right? Take profit. This is not necessarily, although I am holding the scalp long, this is in the context of a much smaller range, right? So, you know, don't lose sight of that, right? If we wind up getting the dump here, you know, golden pocket, definitely the first major target. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on Bitcoin here locally. Let me pull up those local levels. So, yeah, we'll see, right? Locally, the biggest level to get on top of is going to be that POC/ previous value area low. Once we get on top of that, right, we could potentially start to push our way up to that value area high. And then once we get up there, we'll see if we have the gusto to push out or if it's just going to be another lower high for the bigger drop to the downside. But we shall see here. 12-minute money flow trying to come up. 15-minute money flow, not really coming up, just kind of flat there. Yeah, you got some medium time frame or lower time frame red dots looking to print. Really what I would like to see is I'd like to see this 4-hour green dot print because, again, like I said, when you look at the money flow on the 4-hour here, money flow coming out, you would anticipate the continuation of lower highs and lower lows, right? If we are going to see that play out, right, this 4-hour green dot is looking to print pretty soon. If we print that green dot, I do think there is a possibility of continuing up through that local range. It's not until we get to that value area high where it would be like, okay, is that where the lower high is going to come in at? Right, 786 sits at about 81,868. Once we get up there, right, this is your opportunity for a potential lower high and the lower low to come in. Once we break that, I think at that point you're accepted into your upper range. That's where the doorway kind of opens towards $84,000. So we'll keep an eye on this locally. Let me set some alerts here. Yeah, we'll see if that fit. And then again, if that 4-hour green dot is going to print, we'll see what this 15-minute money flow does. If that crosses over at the same time, you would expect continuation of this local 15-minute uptrend. We just pull a hyper local fib here. We might be already tapping this. Not quite. Just put an alert there. I got a little tiny local support there. We'll see if that goes off in a minute. But let's go ahead. I want to jump into some of the altcoins here, guys. I'm not going to go crazy on the alts tonight, but we'll take a look at Ethereum. Here's those 2 high-volume nodes we marked out yesterday. Let's see here. Yeah, again, like not really a huge update here on Ethereum. Of course, most things are going to be tied to what Bitcoin ends up doing. Very similar kind of situation here. You do have the red dot printing on your daily. You do have the 90-minute money flow crossing into the red. 80-minute money flow also in the red here. So the one thing you do not have here is the bearish divergence, right? You kind of just have lower highs and lower highs. But, you know, contextually, we're just bing-bonging around these 2 major value areas, right? So your doorway to higher prices sits here at $2,400. Once you get accepted into that value area low, that's where we can look for the bigger push up towards about 25.17, 25.20 towards that point of control. If, you know, and this is always going to be resistance until proven otherwise, right? And then your biggest key level of support is hopefully going to be down here on the value area high golden pocket, right? Just like this is your doorway to higher prices, this zone would be the doorway to lower prices. Once you get accepted into the value area, start losing that POC, we're looking for the bigger drop down towards the low. But until then, looking at your higher time frame money flow, let's take a look at the 2-day. 2-day coming out. Yikes, not looking looking similar to Bitcoin, but not the same. And then your 3-day is coming up, right? So again, at face value, I can still have an open mind to potential higher lows and higher highs to come, right? Not everything goes up in a straight line. But once we lose that 786 POC at about 2044, that's the line in the sand. Once we lose that and cannot reclaim it, I'm looking down towards $1,900. Let me just see where this bigger full fib comes in. Yeah, and then like the lose this value area low, obviously I'd be looking to take out the lows. Pretty much the exact same context as Bitcoin. So key zone of support, 2200 to 2118. And then the line in the sand for the drop down to 1900 is going to be sitting at 2050. Doorway to higher prices sits at $2,400 with the next bigger target to the upside sitting at about 2520. Shout out to Dave Digital said, I love when our friends in the chat say not financial advice, like someone in the chat might sue them because they took their financial advice from a chat. Yeah, shout out to Dave Digital. By the way, guys, this is not financial advice. The chat's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some crazy guy that screams on YouTube and somehow makes money trading. But yeah, you obviously have to make your own decisions. Shout out to Connor, said, hey, Frankie, when do you decide to hold a trade for a long time compared to closing it out and just waiting for another setup? Connor, that really depends on the context, right? Like the best kind of example I can give you is the long from $66,000, right? Like this will be kind of like a real world example, right? So long from 66K. Now, overall, my thought process here was that we came down, right? Because you're going to have your entry triggers on the lower time frames, but then you're going to have your overall kind of context, right, or your overall bias. So when we looked at this range, right, I am simply just looking at this as a volume profile trade, right, looking for the longs on the deviations below the low for acceptance back into the range, into the POC, and hopefully seeing that value area fill in full. Now, some of the things that we were looking at here, right, well, I won't talk about, I mean, we had local confirmation, obviously, to take that trade. Key support, we had confluence down here. So that's almost always, right? I wait for the deviation below the range. This is letting me know, based off the previous price action, that this is cheap price, right? Above it is expensive price. So I like to look for shorts at the highs, longs at the lows, right? It's super high probability. But once we get into this trade, right, we get a potential TP1 at the point of control, and then we look for that move into the value area high. At this point, right? I mean, not even at this point, but like as this price starts moving through the range, we see this 4-hour money flow crossover. That 4-hour money flow crossover indicates the trend is likely to continue to the upside. Making it confident that we would fill that range in full. And then as we start playing with this value area high, right, more often than not, and in this case, I am already like usually a take profit deep at least with my stop loss at break even, making it a guaranteed winning trade. And then I shuffle up the higher time frames, right? Take a look at the daily. What does the daily money flow look like? Well, hey, this daily money flow is coming into the green. That indicates that the trend is likely to continue out, making it a higher probability that we would finally get a breakout of this range. We covered this a million times on the live stream, saying, hey, if we see that money flow crossover, the chances of getting the breakout here are going to be much higher than when we attempted here and attempted here. Why is that? Money flow was in the red. Now, on this third attempt, or I guess you can consider it a fourth attempt, that money flow is coming up. Just very simply, there's a higher probability that you're going to get that bigger breakout and seek out your first major target, which we've also covered from down here at $82,000. Right? So at the end of the day, right, this is basically played out. But that's how I do it, right? You have to keep an eye on the context, which is oftentimes derived from the money flow, right? So once I get up there, usually I take profit deep. But when I decide whether I want to hold a portion of this trade, if I see money flow coming up and I'm expecting the trend to give me a continuation and a breakout, why would I close the whole trade, right? Why not hold a portion of that trade for some extra gains? So that's literally how I do it. Hopefully that helps you out. Nothing held back there. Shout out, Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, brother. He said the premium Discord and this YouTube channel is the best non-financial advice I ever got, and my account agrees in full. Shout out to Zach. Let's go, baby. And of course, it is always not financial advice. I just share with you guys the TA, the setups, and what I'm doing personally, right? Everybody is free to make their own decisions. So there you go. Shout out to Regular Guys Trade. Says, for the love of all things, slap that like button. If you want price to go down, smack that like button. If you want price to go up, also smack that like button. And if you like free analysis, free key levels, and free trading education, right? I always say this, right? The premium Discord is if you want to take your trading to the next level. But if you are just getting started trading, this is the place to be. Tons of free content, tons of free tutorials. I have the beginner series. It's a free trading course, essentially, a beginner's trading course to get you up to speed on what we look at on these live streams. And there's enough information on this channel to there's enough information. I'll say this with full conviction. There's enough free information on this YouTube channel to go from knowing absolutely nothing about a chart, you don't even know what a candle is, to becoming a profitable trader. The premium Discord, you want to take it to the next level. You want to follow me on what I'm doing every day, all the local levels, all the setups, all that stuff. That you could start with the free stuff and then, invest in yourself further down the road. So yeah, shout out to Zach. I appreciate you, bro. That is our goal here. So that makes me feel super good. So basically never close a running position. Shout out to Dwayne. I mean, if it's going with the money flow, I'm typically holding that position. So yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing here too, right? And the volume profiles give you like such a clear viewpoint, right? What happened up here? Why were we able to short $98,000 and hold it for the massive capitulation, right? Because when we were up here, we saw the local setup, right? And again, that was basically just in the context of our local volume profile, right? We had local confirmations. We literally saw every confirmation we wanted up here. At that point, the roadmap to the lower prices is to come back down to the value area high. Once you lose the high in the POC, you're looking to go to the low. And now what is happening here? Your daily money flow is looking across into the red. And on top of that, the big thing we were looking at was the weekly money flow crossing over into the red right here. So at that point, right, take a little money off the table, stop loss to break even, guaranteed winning trade with a high probability of a big continuation down. And not only was there a high potential for just a continuation of the trend, but there was a high chance, and if you watch the channel, you'll know this because we talked about it on the live stream, there was an extremely high chance that once we broke out of that range, there would be a very fast capitulation due to the low volume gap. There was just nothing underneath us but air, leading to a very fast move down, called way ahead of time, right? Not to brag, but just to show this is how you can call for those moves, right? Yourself. You can learn this. So again, right, that was with money flow, right? If I had taken a short up there, right, and I had money flow, freshly crossing into the green and it looked like the trend was going to continue up, I would probably look to hold my long position and, maybe I would have got stopped out of the short or maybe I wouldn't have taken it. So as long as it is, accompanied by your money flow, right? As long as it agrees with your money flow. So yeah, there you go. And even if you're not looking at money flow, guys, like as long as you are, like let's just pretend you're not looking at money flow, right? It's really hard, honestly. Like if I lost money flow, I would lose a lot of what I base my biases off of, other than like market structure. But because like here you had the low, here you also had a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, potential higher high. But like if you can't look at money flow, right? Like if you take profit here, let's say you take 50% of your profit here, you've made money, your stop loss is at break even. It's literally a risk, not only a risk-free trade, but it's a guaranteed winning trade. Does that make sense? Right? So like let's just say you have a big target at 82K. There's the golden pocket getting tapped. Well. If you're not looking at money flow, right? It's just like hard for me to say like, it's likely to continue up, right? I guess you do have the higher low to look at. But let's say you take 50% here, right? Worst case scenario is you come down and stop out for 50% of your profit. You're still making money. But the money flow just makes it very clear, right? That money flow comes up. It's like I have strong conviction that trend is going to continue up, especially when you have the low volume above you and that major target. So there's the golden pocket getting tapped. No real... that's kind of it. So we'll see. Let me just put another alert here on the 786. We'll see if we tap that. This is just so we can keep an eye on the local price action. But at the end of the day, right, like locally here, as long as we stay inside the range, right? We'll see if that 15-minute money flow can come up. Once you get above the POC, we can look for the continuation. This winds up stopping my long out in profit. Luckily, the short will continue to pay me out now. Yeah, that would be... that would low-key feel lucky if this stops me out in profit and the short plays and we get the bigger dump towards 77K. That would be beautiful. I would love that. Money flow is the crystal ball. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's super choppy. But oftentimes, right, like the big basis here for a continuation up was like, especially when you see failed breakout, right? Money flow in the red. Now you're coming up while making higher lows and higher highs into key support, money flow coming up. That higher low is very likely with that money flow coming out going to give you a bigger, higher high, essentially just breaking above here. So there you go. All right, so we took a look at Ethereum. Let's jump into Solana here real quick. We got the alert set there on Bitcoin. I'll take a sip of the Aztecian and Cactus black coffee. All right, so let me come over here to the alt section. Yeah, so Solana getting the rejection from the POC. Let me go ahead and hide this gap real quick. So yeah, got into the value area, push into the POC. This is your local resistance, starting to get a little bit of a pullback. Let's take a look at these higher time frames. Money flow, technically, right? Looking at the 3-day, money flow is still coming up. That would be good for the trend overall. And again, the reason why, even on Bitcoin with the 3-day money flow, like the reason this is a little suspicious to me is because it is not lost on me that we are still in a bear market. And in a bear market, money flow does like to spend more time in the red than it does in the green. But I have to treat it at face value, right? Like more often than not, money flow is going to be right. If I have to get faked out on money flow a couple times over 100 trades, it's going to be much more right than it is wrong. I don't mind getting stopped out of a trade or 2 or 3 or 5 out of 100, whatever it is. You know, I'm always going to take that at face value. So technically, money flow coming up on your 3-day, 2-day money flow, chopping around here. 4-day money flow not really coming up at all. It's just still in the red. 5-day money flow still in the red. And weekly just chopping around here. So yeah, money flow not giving us the clearest signs here on Solana. See, your 16-hour money flow is still thick boy in the green here. So key levels here that I would be watching is obviously going to be your local value area low sitting at 91.92, right? Obviously, your goal here would be to stay inside the volume profile. As long as you stay above that value area low, the POC door remains open. And then, of course, getting above that would open the door to potentially get the bigger push up towards your value area high, sitting at about 111.50, which is accompanied by a bit of a low volume gap, right? Fast move down could equal fast move up, right? We're just bang-bonging our head on that low volume gap. So once we break in there, right, that's where you can start to see not only the move from the POC to the value area high, but potentially a quick one. You do so have a little bit of a cluster of consolidation here between about 105 and where we are now at the POC, or where we're rejecting from now at the POC. But overall, that value area high would remain the next higher time frame target. So pretty simple there. Value area high 111.45, POC currently being rejected at 97.42, and then the value area high sits at 92.04. And let me just pull this range real quick. Yeah, so I would look at this as a little bit of a zone. You have the low and the previous value area high, which just like on Bitcoin is going to be a very key level of support, right? Because obviously you want to hold on top of the value area low, but if you have to dip below it, you do not want to get accepted into this lower value, right? We want to see a range being broken out of and holding as support for a bigger continuation through the upper value, right? So we need to leave this value to stay in this value, obviously. Once you lose this value area high, which, by the way, sits at about $90.24, if we cannot get back out of that, that's where we're just accepted into lower value, and I would expect the POC at 84.90, and then eventually, once we lose the POC, the value area low at 81.52. Now, let's see if that 786 is confluent. Not really. Yeah, so you have a bit of room to come down there into the golden pocket, but if we pull our local fib here, that 786 is really going to be key. Once we lose that 786, I'm looking to probably take out these lows, and if Bitcoin's losing its big level, maybe take out this low here. But still have a little bit of room down to come down here on Solana. So major zone, $92,000 to $90,000. $90,000. Solana's at 90 grand, 92 to $90. And then, once we lose that, I'll be looking at this as the context below. Yeah. POC is an honorable mention there. But of course, right, ideally, you don't get accepted into this value area. You want to stay inside this value. This value keeps your doorway to higher prices open. Getting in here opens up the doorway to lower prices. Let's see. Would I consider depends macro support? If you're talking about the diapers, I would say it is macro support if you get liquidated. Always have your depends with you. Yeah, shout out to Zach. Said, in my noble opinion, the key is the SPY. Like you said yesterday, the next major fib level is sitting way above the extended chart. We break that 740 zone. BTC might push towards 86 to 89K. So let me actually bring that up real quick because that is important, right? Obviously, we're seeing the stock market mooning, right? And we brought up these higher targets, right? You have the 740 level, which is that kind of end of the first major extension targets, right? We tapped into this yesterday. If we do, we did end up getting a pullback, obviously, but now, getting a pretty aggressive retracement. But yeah, it's really hard because I can't look left for any levels. The next extension level that I have is 785, right? Let me actually just pull this up on a... Yeah. So, really the only target I have up there is about 785 into about 808. If the SPY ends up, right, if stocks wind up ripping and we come through here and we get another big leg up into these targets, that's probably, in my opinion, going to be bullish for Bitcoin. The kind of hiccup here is that, you got to get above this level. We've already tapped it, gotten a rejection. We've gotten the pullback with a very nice bounce already, which is nice to see. But if this continues to get a rejection, right, obviously this level is going to be very, very key on the SPY, 740.20. Of course, you're probably going to run into some kind of resistance ahead, but when it comes to those major levels, if you get a big monster move like that, probably going to be pretty good for Bitcoin. So we'll see, right? If we just end up getting the rejection here and the SPY actually starts nuking, which, again, there's no real sign of weakness here, in my opinion. You're just continue to put in local higher lows and higher highs. This is just kind of maybe, like I said yesterday, right? Maybe we just start to consolidate up here a little bit, right? Get a little bit of a ranging kind of situation. We'll have to let time go by to see what happens there. Looking at your money flow, 4-hour money flow thick in the green. 10-hour money flow just crossing into the green. No bearish divergences. Daily money flow just crossed into the green as well. So again, right, the idea here would probably be any pullback, lackluster, higher lows, higher highs, just because of the money flow, right? Money flow indicates the overall trend. Take it back to the last money flow crossover, right? Money flow crosses green, right? Big pullback, big push up, money flow crossing green, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? You just continue that massive uptrend. So we'll see. 740.21 is the level to break. I can't say you're going to teleport here, obviously, but that's really the only levels that I can look at, right? Let me see if I could pull up anything else. Just turn all of these on. Yeah, you just got nothing, at least for what I look at. You might have some other fib levels in there. Fib levels are somewhat subjective for what people want to look at, but for me, that next major target's in 785 to 800. So there we go, right? Money flow not looking too bad here either. Shout out to Mr. Market said, although you can't read this, if you are on food stamps, your money is not disposable and you need to build up before you start trading. Yeah, sometimes I've had people come in here and be like, Frankie, I need your help right now. I took a gigantic loss and I need to find an entry right now to make it all back. And my first word of advice to somebody like that is get the heck away from the charts right now. That is only going to dig you into a deeper hole because now you're forced to make emotional decisions, right? If there's no key levels or setups there, you're just going to be looking to jump into a trade, which makes things 10 times worse. So yeah, obviously you don't want to be trading with your rent money. This is only going to make trading harder. It's only going to make that emotional, if you want to make money trading, in my opinion, one of the biggest things you can do is emotionally detach yourself from the money, right? Because you can't avoid losses. You can have a beautiful setup and still lose the trade, which is going to end up, hopefully, if you're managing your risk correctly, in a small loss, but it is still going to feel like you lost money. And if you have $1,000 account and you're going to try to flip that into $2,000 and your rent is $1,000 and you run that down to $800, you're going to be like, oh my God, now I need to pay my rent. Let me take this trade, even though it's not the best because I need my money by tomorrow. And it's just an absolute nightmare. You want to be trading with money that you don't mind losing, especially when you first start out, right? Because you're going to have to learn. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. You have to treat it as tuition, right? Market tuition is what we call it. Take whatever the money is, 500, 5,000, 50,000, whatever the money you want to learn how to trade, the disposable income is. You want to take that as kind of paying for your market college, right? Could you make money? Sure. Yeah, you could totally, make money in the beginning. But if you don't, right, it's not, it's super common when you first start trading that you're going to have to give some money back to the market to learn those mistakes. You have to get your hands dirty to feel the pain of losing money, FOMOing back in, losing more money, taking your stop loss away, getting liquidated. You have to kind of feel those mistakes in order to actually fix those mistakes in the future, right? So yeah, there you go. Great advice, Dave. Let's see. Shout out to, I don't know how to say that name. Safe Salim, I think is what that says. Thank you for the super chat. Say, can you take a look at ANDV? Let me see here. Quick reminder, please do not super chat your altcoins. ANDV. I don't know exactly what you're looking at. I am not seeing any tickers come up under crypto. I don't know if this is what you want to see. Short volume. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But thank you for the super chat, bro. If you want to drop if the ticker is wrong or something, if you want to drop it in the free chat, you don't have to super chat again. I could try to find that for you. Frankie looks at every request that super chats $1 billion. If you super chat $1 billion, I will stay awake for as long as humanly possible and look at the charts for you. Yeah, my eyes are stuck on. Shout out to JP Yo says my eyes are stuck on the 2-day red dot with the 3-day money flow 3-hour money flow crossover. 2-day red dot, 3-hour money flow crossover. Yeah, I mean it's there. It's there. Yeah, it just kind of again, this was identified, right? I was able to identify that these money flow crossovers are probably going to fake out. And why was that? It's because we had the major target up here. But you can see, right, like here you have the 3-day money flow crossover. I don't know if this was confluent with a 2-day red dot or not. Yeah, this was also confluent with a 2-day red dot. How did it end up playing out, right? It ended up obviously not getting you got a little continuation down, but you didn't really get you still put in a higher low. But again, it is a little bit different here because we have finally tapped into that higher target. So yeah, again, if I stop out of the shorts, I'm happy to take the loss. Shout out to Can't Weed This said, can you believe profitable long-term asking AI to pick trades for you? Shout out to Can't Weed This. Are you asking me if I believe that has happened to you, or do I believe that you can do that? It'd be interesting to test. But yeah, not something I would generally do. But I don't know. Have you tested it? Let us know. AI is owned by companies with judiciary responsibilities. AI skews answers. I wouldn't use any of it for decision making. Yeah, I personally wouldn't either. Dave said he vibe codes thumbnail indicators. Shout out to Dave. That's wild. That's wild. Thoughts on Ethereum? Shout out to 123. We actually just took a look at Ethereum. If you scrub back just a little bit, you will see all the information there. We took a look at Solana. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on the altcoins here, guys. Just because, again, right, it's just gonna be super repetitive to what we looked at yesterday. Like, what else did we look at? I think we looked at Cardano yesterday. There's the 786 getting tapped here on good old Biddy. Where'd that 786 go? There it is, 786 tapped. Again, not really like any kind of super big deal there. Super local fib. Again, even this fib, right? Like technically, this would be like the last fib to look at for another higher low. But really, I would just view this as a range, right? This continues down. Breakdown out of the range, right? That's really your big key level of support. You still have the bottom of the golden pocket here, and you do still have a daily MPOC. So we'll see. Just overall, this is the range, right? Locally, as long as we can, it's not always going to be something like we've seen on Zcash, which is get above the low, just absolutely moon into the value area high. Sometimes this can be a little bit wonky, like even here, right? Get below the low, POC, you bang bong around. You bang bong, you bang bong, you bang bong. Eventually, you do get that magnetic rotation. So we'll see. Again, the one thing that I think the thing that's going to give you the best chance of getting a bigger push above that POC is going to be the 4-hour green dot. And we'll see if that prints. Maybe it doesn't print, but that VWAP is looking to come up. See that 3-hour green dot looking to print as well. But yeah, from a money flow perspective, if I'm looking at this at face value, regardless of the previous context of all the money flow faking out, if we were in like more of a typical environment where we weren't just like in this crazy aggressive slow grind to the upside, I would be looking at this money flow coming out. My full bias would be lower highs and lower lows. I'm just a little bit suspicious, right? Just because all of these have not played out. But face value here, money flow coming out, lower highs and lower lows is kind of the bigger overall thought process down to that $77,000 to $76,000 zone. I would love that. And then we'll identify what's going on down here. Is there a chance for the higher low, or are we just going to get the bigger breakdown towards our previous value area high and the $73,000 area? That's where it's kind of like lock in. Things might be changing. Shout out to Abdul, says, off topic, but what do you think if Satoshi moves even one Bitcoin from the Satoshi wallet? Shout out to Abdullah. I think that would be horrific. I think it would totally break trust in the whole thing, and I think it would be absolutely, that's one of that would be like, in my opinion, a really big bear case for Bitcoin. The only other bear cases I can really think of is like, I don't know, quantum computing or something, but I've talked to people who know more about quantum computing than I do, which is basically I know nothing. They say it's like, that would be really far away. But yeah, if Satoshi's wallet even moves a Satoshi, right? Like, I would see that as a very big bear case for Bitcoin, right? Because it breaks the trust, right? That's like the whole thing about Bitcoin. So, yeah, I think it would be very, very bad. But I don't know. Will it happen? I want to say I don't think so, but, man, one day we will get a definitive answer, hopefully, of who Satoshi is. Who knows? So, yeah, let's take a look. I think we looked at, like, Cardano yesterday. It's all the same stuff, right? Like, a lot of things are still chopping around in their lower range. Money flow on the daily, trying to come into the green. So your thought process is, if you could get an impulse out of this range, meaning this lower value area, your goal is to get on top of your doorway to higher prices, flip this into support, and then you can see a potentially bigger move up towards the POC. Until then, at least currently right now for Cardano, all right, you're still technically inside your volume profile. So let me, just see where this is. Yeah, again, I don't really have a ton of interest in trading Cardano right now, but I would say this POC value area low golden pocket is going to be a big level. If you did have to, If you get accepted in here, right, you can see your 4-hour money flow trying to come out here a little bit. If you did get that move down towards the POC, you'd really want to make sure you bounce on that fib zone, right? Once you lose that 786, I would be looking to take out this low at about 22 cents. So you haven't really gotten the breakout here yet on Cardano, where Ethereum has crept above its lower range, right? Bitcoin obviously crept above its lower range, but Cardano has not gotten an impulse in its retesting. It has just come up and stayed inside the profile, right? So your thought process here is like you got to get outside of this value and then get accepted into your upper value, right? And again, fast move down, not a lot of volume here. Could be a quick ascension towards the POC, sitting around 35 cents. Money flow wise, same thing as pretty much everything else, right? Money flow trying to trend out on the 4-hour, 3-hour money flow is coming out as well. And then your daily money flow is crossed into the green, right? So higher time frame still could potentially look for an uptrend to continue, but there are warning signs here with money flow coming out that you could see the bigger pullback. Right, I guess that's kind of my overall base case for Bitcoin, right? Is like money flow on the medium time frames is definitely calling for the bigger pullback on top of the higher time frame red dots. The only thing that really makes me suspicious of that is the fact that it is really hard to like fade strength like this, especially when every other money flow crossover has not played out. So I would say like in a normal environment, right, I am looking for a pullback here. The only thing that makes me suspicious is like every other time it looked like it was going to do that, right, we just continued up, right, which of course we knew down here. So yeah, and the other thing you have on your side here with the money flow is the fact that we have finally hit the major target. So it's like 2-hour money flow is coming up, man. This is a mess. Sideways for days. Shout out to Cuz I Can Bump It, or Kuzi Can, as I like to call him. I pray to the crypto gods that is not going to happen. Being stuck in this range is killing me. Yeah, and this isn't even really that brutal. This has only been since like May 4th. But yeah, I mean, this is really just your local context. I mean, you lose this range, but like over time to get that continuation down towards 76K. Let's see. Please hold. Yeah, I'm just trying to see this because this is a little bit of like a, I don't know, I wouldn't call this a bull pennant, but typically the closer you get to these apexes, right, is like the closer you can get to a breakdown or a break up. Like usually you get to the resolution of it once you get closer to the tip, just the tip. So, maybe we got here until the 16th. I don't know. Not something it's not like a big part of my analysis, but golden pocket 786 is confluent with this area. Maybe then you get the breakdown. I don't know. I'm more of a fan of looking at these as volume profiles. Shout out to Lindo, says XRP to 0. Let's take a look at XRP real quick. Yeah, same. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as Cardano, right? It's like just stuck inside of its range still. Nothing really to write home about this. And then again, right, money flow on the daily is in the green, and then we come on down to the 4-hour, money flow is coming out. All the money flow looks the same on pretty much everything. So yeah, I mean, in order to open up the doorway to technically, let me just pull this real quick. Probably look at this like this, right? Like your previous value area low that I would watch here as a major target if you did get a big pop to the upside is going to be about $1.83, right? Let's pull up the VPVR real quick. Yeah, I mean, you got pretty low volume. Like if you did get the impulse out of this range, if you start flipping, you start breaking these highs, next big target would be between about 183 and 190. But again, you need to break out of this range in order to see that. Until then, I would just say you are pretty much considered range bound here. XRP to 50 cents. Let's see. Do we have a key level at 50 cents? Now you got the macro value area low at 61 cents. Pretty close. But yeah, I would still say the biggest level of support here on XRP is 100% going to be $1.26. Right, once we start getting accepted into this value area, right, this is going to look a lot more bearish for at least a drop to the POC. But currently we live above it, right? So, yeah, just super boring here. Shout out to Zach, said, how was Frankie in real life, Dave? Don't tell him about the calf implants, bro. Please. Let's see. Oh my God, we got Satoshi Nakamoto in the chat. Please don't move any of your Bitcoin and send Bitcoin to zero. He says, oh wow, what are you guys looking at? What's that? Hey, what's a Bitcoin? Shout out to Satoshi. Frankie IRL is in limited supply. Shout out to Dave Digital. Special edition, limited drops. I'm going to skip that one. Watch the 4-hour candle tonight, 1 a.m. UK time, potential double inverted candle. When you cash out the short at 73.5, 76.5, then I hope next time you will trust me. Shout out to Zach. I don't know what that's necessarily in reference to. Shout out to Biggie Worm. Oh. It says, Frankie, thanks for all the free TA. You really are goated. I will do my first trade soon off the strength of you. Shout out to Biggie Worm. Let's go, baby. I appreciate you, man. Frankie's trying not to weed the chat. Zach said, if BTC rain, just bing bongs around, tell us some nice stories at least. Yeah, we'll have to do like Bitcoin-themed lullabies. All right, getting a little bounce off that 786. Again, I wish I could say, oh, my God, it's exciting, right? But super local there. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I am looking at here on Bitcoin, guys. I'd say overall, you're at major resistance. You have the high time frame bear divs, high time frame red dots, potential medium time frame money flow coming out. Again, in any normal situation, this does give me the bias of a correction coming in, right, or a continued pullback coming in. Major target sitting between $77,000 and $76,000. That's the first major target. If we wind up just continuing to scoot to the upside and it breaks out, you know, hey, it is what it is, right? But I would say based off the analysis here, money flow coming out, you know, that would kind of be my bias, is looking for a bigger pullback. But again, at the same time, I hate to be like 50-50 here. But at the same time, would it shock me to just aggressively continue rounding up? Not really. Why is that? Because we've experienced this through the entire push to the upside. The only reason I'm really talking about the big pullback here is just simply because we have finally come up and hit our major target with bearish divergences, right? So you can't really sleep on that. Like I was telling Zach, you know, if you took a short up here and it just winds up flying back to the upside and it stops you out, right? Like I wouldn't classify that as a bad trade. I would just consider that as a good setup that did not play out in your favor, right? Statistics. So there you go. Shout out to Rudy. Said, thanks, bro. I love you. I love you back, Rudy, in a platonic way, of course. If Chris is still in the chat, it's always platonic, brother. It's always platonic. It's like bro love. You know what I'm saying? How do I get a Frankie Candles airdrop? Like I just come in on a parachute, screaming bing bong and making goat noises. Phoebe tied to my waist with her own little parachute. We just airdrop into your backyard with trade setups. Shout out to you, brother. Go to frankiecandlestrading.com. There's an option for a Frankie Candles airdrop. But anyway, let's see. I can't see the same strength as the past bull markets. They always break out real fast, then consolidate. This just looks like a grind into resistance. Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at the, you know, if we just zoom out here, we'll come up to like the weekly time frame here. You know, I say this every day, and I do like to be very clear about it, right? Like there's not necessarily, we have not broken any major market structure yet, as far as like, oh my God, guys, like, is the bottom in type stuff. We are still obviously putting in lower highs and lower lows. And of course, right, the major target that we're tapping right now, whoops, is that golden pocket retracement, right? So like if I'm just looking from a very basic standpoint for areas where I would be interested in looking for macro lower highs and lower lows, these golden pocket 786 retracements are typically the big areas, right? It's from a significant swing high to the significant swing low. Is it going to come in here or is it going to come in at the 786? It's really difficult to say. Again, based off real information, right? Like 3-day money flow coming up would say that we have another high to come. So really the way I'm looking at this is if we pull back, right, 4-hour money flow drags us down. It's not going to be until we get that move down where we can re-look at this money flow. Is this money flow coming back into the red? It's probably going to be a super choppy environment. High, low, lower high, lower low. If we do take out that low again, just a quick reminder for the higher time frames, my base case right now is not that we are just going to instantly nuke down to 30K. Is that possible? Yes, I think there's an argument for that. It is a valid target. But with our RSIs oversold, with our weekly money flow already crossed into the red, giving us a big capitulation, it does seem that we are a lot closer to, even if we come back down, to eventually wrapping this thing up. Right? Rather than just like starting another massive capitulation. I went over this yesterday on the live stream. I actually recommend you go back and watch that because we talked about all of those signals indicating that we were not starting a major downtrend, right? We were still continued down, but it was more of an accumulation zone. Everything on the indicators are more pointing towards something like this, something like this, something like this, not something like that, right? So definitely possible. I won't really have any more further clarification on that until we get down here to tap into the levels, right? If we get down there and we start putting in weekly bull divs, my sentiment will remain the same. If we wind up getting back down there and it looks like trash, there's no confirmation, well, then we can start talking about the idea of coming down to 30K. But again, when you're not sitting there with 100% of your bag waiting to just buy at the perfect low, which I do not recommend in any kind of long-term accumulation, dollar cost averaging is the way. I like to weighted dollar cost average. Same thing back here, right? Down here, I was under the impression that most of the capitulation was over and we were going to work out more of an accumulation here. At that point, I was not 100% confident if the bottom was in or not, but either way, I did feel confident about being in some kind of an accumulation rather than just seeing a mega nuke to the downside. Of course, we had a plan for a mega nuke to the downside, but I was behaving as if based off my bias, right? Which was once we saw that weekly bull div, we wound up coming back up. I started turning off my DCA bots, and then, of course, the bottom ended up being in. So, of course, I'll keep you guys updated here on the live streams, the market updates, and all that good stuff as that develops. Look at this, getting a continuation here, or very locally, of course. Just getting a little bounce off that 786. So what I would look for here for the local continuation to the upside is the 4-hour green dot. If we get that 4-hour green dot, we can assume that we might be able to see a bigger push to the upside. If we break out of here, right, we'll see what happens up here tomorrow if we get the push through the profile. But just like yesterday, lose the high, POC is next, lose the POC, value area low is next. I'm now holding the scalp long here, profits locked in. If we get up here, I will look to take maybe another TP here and then hold the rest for a potential runner. I will also potentially be interested in fading these highs if we get the bigger push up as well. So we'll see what happens, guys. I'll keep an eye on the charts for you. Satoshi says operating a physical bank branch is highly expensive, often costing between $200,000 and $400,000 per year in total overhead for a standard. What a waste of money. That is something Satoshi Nakamoto would say. But guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Watch that 4-hour green dot and keep an eye on the money flow here. We'll see if we get the bigger pullback. If we get the shocking rip to the upside, more power to us. And we can, look at this. Perfect timing, guys. Yeah, guys, Lucy did not have a good time. What? Are you in there? Oh, my God, guys. I was talking about you before, and I was hoping you weren't in there. Lucy had a rough time here at the vet's office yesterday. Mrs. Candle said she was screaming. And, hi, Mama. Hi. How you doing? Oh, you're calm today. Oh, you're sad today? Okay. Say hi to the CandleMafia. What do you think? Are we going to dump or are we going to pump? Look really cute if we're going to pump. Oh God, you got eye boogers? Okay, good girl. I love you so much. All right, guys, that's all I got for you tonight. I'm gonna go take Lucy for a walk and continue to train her. Guys, I don't know if we have a lot of like really big dog people in here. I think we do. Lucy, we're this close to getting Lucy to have a competition heel, which is amazing. If you don't know what a competition heel is, I don't know. Look it up on look it up on Instagram or TikTok or something. She's very smart, very trainable, and we love her, and she's looking pretty cute right now, so hopefully that means Bitcoin's going to pump. But I'll check back in with you guys tomorrow right here on the Frank Candles YouTube channel. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and drop some hearts in the chat for Lucy. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out.